Hello there, and welcome back to Napalm's newest news. And today we have essentially 3 dev blocks, and there are really big news. Quite literally, we have 2 premium battleships, the HMS Iron Duke, finally something for the British, and the IJN Yamashiro, finally something for the Japanese. And in typical fashion, the Italians and the French are last and least, according to Gaijin. So that's the first, and I have a statistical analysis about the AP shells performance coming later on, and we will have a quick look in the hangar to make a comparison to the current premium battleships and what that actually means. And first things first, we get this out of our system, the Battle Pass vehicle HMS Gay Archer. And while the memes write themselves already with the name, I want to clarify here, because obviously the War Thunder community always behaves like a bunch of well-educated adults. So yeah, first of all, I love the look of it. I love the skin. Performance-wise, it's really not worth it. There are better patrol boats out there. It's not worth the effort battle pass-wise, but it's a collector's item. And when it comes to the naming conventions of smaller British vessel classes, they are prefixed, and in this class it is Gay. It's prefixed with Gay. And there are other examples like HMS Gay Bombardier, HMS Gay Bruiser, and HMS Gay Archer, and some others. Okay, with that out of our system, let's talk about those 2 packs. We have the sister ships of those 2 beasts already in the respective tech trees. The HMS Iron Duke is the lead ship of its class, and the sister ship, the HMS Marlborough, has dropped as of today in battle rating from 7.0, which is the top battle rating at the moment, to 6.7. What a coincidence. And then we have the IJN Yamashiro, which is also quite the monster, with 12 14-inch guns. That is the sister ship of the IJN Fuso, which still is at 7.0. So this one must go to 7.0 accordingly. But I guess just like with the Marat, it will be dropped to 6.7. And yeah, they cost quite a bit. $70, euros, Gaijin coins, whatever, for each of them. And I have to say, I love their look. I love their sister ships in-game performance. I love the skins. I can see myself having fun playing them. The combination of really sturdy, robust armor, powerful guns, and acceptable DPM make those reasonable grinding machines. And I think one final thing when it comes to the historical career of especially the Iron Duke, it was the first super dreadnought class, and with 10 343mm guns, 13.5 inches, they were the predecessor and the basis for the infamous British 15-inch gun, which we will see on the Revenge class, and hopefully soon also on the HMS Warspite. Can't wait for that ship. And despite being quote-unquote only 13.5 inch guns, they don't have to hide behind 14-inch or even 15-inch guns that we currently have in the game. They pack a serious punch. And also in the Battle of Jutland, she was the flagship of the Grand Fleet's commander, Admiral John Jellicoe. And yeah, there was a big discussion if those ships should be preserved or not, but they just had the wrong caliber later down the line when a lot of the Queen Elizabeth class and the R class were online with a unified 15-inch gun battery alongside HMS Hood. But again, go to Drakini Fell's YouTube channel and check out those videos, because they're absolutely worth it. So in-game, we have the IJN Fuso, and armor, yeah, 12 inches, barbettes, turret faces, a bit thinner, deck armor, not the greatest, but it's there, and the shells are quite powerful. As you can see here, those shells have good yield, they have good penetration, even at distance, and you fire 12 of them. You have SAP rounds, you have also HE shell, although not being the best, it's still there. And then we have to go to the British for the... No? Where are you? There we are. The Iron Duke, also 12-inch belt. Barbette is a bit thinner, 10 inches. Turret faces, 11 inches. Deck armor exists and is not nothing. And I think you also have a turtleback on this one, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not quite sure how to see it on this one. But yeah, it's a tough nut to crack. And also 30 seconds to reload. And we have the highest capacity TNT shell in the game so far with 88 kilograms, although still not being really worth it. Although you tend to see more damage done on other HE shells. Then a SAP round, which is quite nice, combines okayish penetration with a big bang. And then you have 2 AP shells with high yield, 22.2 kilograms. That's approaching the levels of, for example, the Bayern's 15-inch shells, 25 kilogram TNT yield warhead for the AP shell, or you can go back to a 14 kilogram charge, but have quite the penetration. And I think that's really worth talking about, especially at distance. So I think when we now have to look at some other nations, we have the USS Arkansas with 12 12-inch guns, and yeah, it just isn't really the same level of protection effectively because of the internal structure. And you know, the USS Arkansas is the better choice here, especially if you compare it to the German SMS Nassau. The SMS Nassau doesn't cost $70 though, and it's battle rating 6.3 and has a 20-second reload, so therefore it sees more cruisers, has a turtleback and also coal bunkers and a thick belt. So that's also a tough nut to crack, but it can be cracked by those massive 13.5 or 14-inch shells. And that brings us to the Marat, which has the thinnest belt, the thinnest barbette, quite the tricky turret front due to the angling, but also has 12 12-inch guns, but has a much mighty SAP round. So I think that we already have here still 3 nations missing a top premium battleships. The Germans, where you with the SMS Nassau have the cheapest, and Italy might get a sister ship to the RN Duilio, and France might get a sister ship to the Bretagne class Lorraine. We will see. However, let's go back and let's talk about stats. Let's run some numbers. As promised, here are the long anticipated statistics, and I have restrained myself to only look at the performance of the AP shells from the listed 7 battleships, and they are divided into 3 groups. The first group is the already existing battleships, the USS Arkansas in red, in blue the SMS Nassau, and in green the Marat. And then we have the second group, that's the now announced 2 premium package battleships, HMS Iron Duke and IJN Yamashiro, although the stats that you see right now are from their in-game existing sisters, so there might be some deviation at the end, but I don't think too much. And then the third group is a highly speculative one, because it's the RN Duilio and the Lorraine from the Italians and the French respectively, because their sister ships might be the ones that then finally get into their tech trees as the premiums of rank 5, because currently they don't have any. And right away we can see that the purple line from the HMS Iron Duke's 13.5-inch APC Mark 3A and the also blue line from the IJN Yamashiro's 356mm Type 91 APC round are right at the top of the pack. They possess the best punch, especially when you compare them at distance, and put the other ships to shame, except for the R.N. Duilio's 320mm magic shells. And right at the bottom we have the SMS Nassau, which is unique in two factors. First of all, it's the only ship that has battle rating 6.3 in this comparison, and also has, with its 11-inch guns, the lowest caliber. But on the other hand, it is also by far the cheapest one, because it costs only something around 8,500 golden eagles, and therefore that's much cheaper than the 70 euros for the packs of the others. So with that, I think there is a few more statistics that might be interesting, but this is probably the most important one, especially in a battleship versus battleship fight. I don't think that the SMS Nassau has any sort of problems facing cruisers, like light and heavy cruisers at all. It also has more than sufficient armor, but all the other battleships face more other battleships. Then at 30 degrees angles of impact, we see basically the same picture, although Every's shell's AP shell goes down in relative penetration, but still there is a significant gap, and also it retains at distance. And this resembles a little bit the impact angle at distance under normal realistic battle conditions, and also when the ship is not perfectly broadside on. And still, those premium battleships can go through most belt armor at up to 10 kilometers. The second last graph here not just shows us a continuation of the trend, but is thus interesting because we can somewhat derive from this AP performance, especially at ranges of 10 to 15 kilometers, how the shells might work with plunging fire. Remember, while the deck armor is not really that thick, it is still heavily sloped for those shells, and the impact angle is still at around, depending on how you see it, somewhere between 70 to 80 degrees, or 10 to 20, however, from which perspective you see it. And therefore you still need a lot of penetration. And it's not just that you then crash through the deck, but all the dreadnought designs have very often multiple thin decks. And this is interesting for the last statistic, which is the TNT equivalent charge in the AP shell for all the battleships respectively. And we can see, while the R.N. Duilio with its 320mm guns has a very high penetration, it just trades that high penetration for a very low yield in the shell itself. And this is where the Lorraine is quite the opposite with its 340mm guns, which then approach the high yield 15-inch guns. Remember, the Bahn has flat 25 kilograms. And this is where then the Iron Duke has some advantage actually over the Yamashiro, in that the 14 kilograms produce significantly more penetration for the shrapnel than the 11.66 kilograms of yield for the Yamashiro, despite that being a larger shell. And those shrapnels performance in terms of penetration get calculated based on the TNT charge of the warhead. And so in many cases the Iron Duke's shrapnels might go into the magazine when they explode above the last but rather thin deck plating, whereas the Yamashiro might not. I do not have precise stats on this, and this is just a guessing game, and it only plays a role at very long distances with where dispersion has probably more influence of the outcome than the statistic here, but I included it anyway. When I'm doing the stats, I do them completely. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope that you found it somewhat useful or interesting. If so, let me know in the comment section down below. In the video description you'll find the 2 links to the dev blogs, and let me know if you liked this video, if it was way too long, or if it made somewhat the decision easier to get those packs or not. Please give this video a like if you did. For you it's just a click, for me it means the world. And subscribe and hit the bell if you want to see more. And we'll see each other on the battlefields, in the skies and on the waves of War Thunder.